of Carson Wentz. King went on to say that Wentz didn't handle the situation well and contrasted it to how well Tom Brady played after the Patriots drafted Jimmy Garoppolo in 2014, winning 2 more Super Bowls in New England and an MVP. So, Shannon, does Peter King have a point here?
He does. Carson could have handled it better, but Carson Wentz handled it like every other quarterback has handled it. What Peter King, Coach Belichick wanted to make the move to Jimmy Garoppolo. Tom Brady went upstairs and asked Mr. Kraft to move Jimmy G out of the building. Now Peter King didn't mention that because Seth Wickersham wrote a very compelling story that you and I, we discussed ad nauseum on here what Tom Brady did.
It wasn't ad nauseum. It was, great.
We talked about it. We talked about it every day. I love talking about it. I love because I saw the look on your face. You hated it. That's why you had it there for Coach Belichick. You had never forgiven him since either. Had you know that.
Well, what would you have done? You would have gone upstairs too. It was either him or me. It was like he wanted to push Tom out the back door, and he finally got his wish 3 years later.
This blows up. But, Skip, we know the relationship that Joe Montana, how many Super Bowls had Joe Montana won when they brought Steve Young in there? And it was a very contentious relationship. We saw the relationship that Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love. Skip, I was there when they took Tommy Maddox with the first pick in 1992 with John Elway. And I know how that rubbed him. So the way Carson Wentz behaved is not unnatural than any other quarterback in the history of time that's been any good have reacted. I mean, they make it seem like Carson Wentz did something that no other quarterback in the history of time that's been started, that's been, he was considered a franchise quarterback, behaved. We saw the relationship. Steve Young mentioned the relationship with him and Joe. They butted heads. Yes, Tom handled it because he didn't view Jimmy as a threat. The moment he saw Jimmy G as a threat, somehow he found his way upstairs. He had never been upstairs, hadn't been upstairs before because he get direct deposit. Skip, I didn't get direct deposit. I need to get my check, put it in my hand, put that money right there. So,
I'm sure he went upstairs, or did he just go to his house?
He went upstairs.
Yeah.
That's when somebody saw him too, like, what Tom going upstairs? He don't never go upstairs to talk to Coach Belichick, so I know he ain't going there. Only one other person got an office upstairs that Tom would be going. Didn't think anybody saw it. They saw it. So.
Okay, but that was in 2017.
Yes.
He was drafted, Garoppolo, in 2014.
Yes.
So Peter King's point is, in 2014, Tom could have thrown a fit. Like, what are you doing? I'm 37 and you're trying to push me out the back door. You're trying to push me into retirement. And instead, Brady said, no, watch this. I'll show you how a competitor reacts. That's what Peter King wrote.
So he's such a competitor. Why not just, why did he go upstairs if he's such a competitor?
Okay, but that was 3 years later.
But he did it.
Okay, but he went out and won an MVP, and then he won 2 Super Bowls. And speaking of 2017, he got him to the Super Bowl and threw for a playoff record, not just a Super Bowl, playoff record, 505. And Belichick's defense gave up 41 to the backup quarterback of the Eagles, and they lost 41 to 33.
You and Peter make my point even more.
No.
Think about this, Skip. He had won 2 Super Bowls. He had won an MVP of the regular season. He should have been more convinced that I'm the guy. So he should have never had to worry about Jimmy G replacing him. So why would he need, even after all of that?
You say to me every day, you got to update that resume.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't just update it. He uplifted it up into the stratosphere where it was untouchable.
And still felt a need to go tell Mr. Kraft to get Jimmy G out of the building.
Okay,
why would he need to do that?
That was the flashpoint when he was going to elevate Jimmy G into the starting role. And at some point, you got to say yes or no. And that's a big no for Brady. I don't want to be here.
Okay. Well,
it's him or me.
That's what Carson Wentz said. Sooner or later, Jalen Hurts, I don't want to be here.
Okay, but he didn't go out and say, watch what I do. He didn't even try. He immediately threw a fit. Okay?
I don't, Skip. Carson Wentz is the reason. Look, if you'd stayed healthy, had you played better, they wouldn't have took Jalen Hurts.
And that was his point. Peter King says that he was all in on Jalen Hurts just because of availability. Yeah. Right?
Yes.
Carson Wentz had finally played in a playoff game against Seattle at home, and he lasted like
man, David Clown, the cheap shot of that man. You know that.
4 plays.
Skip, you said it. He hit the man behind the head. You know that.
He completed 1 pass. That's all he's got on his playoff resume is 1 completion.
Yeah, you know the man got cheap shot. Skip, look. But my only problem is that Peter's been around the game long enough to know this is how, Skip, you know quarterbacks have the biggest ego. You know they're the most sensitive.
I got it, but when you do Montana Young, Joe was so up there in years that he was not able to respond as a competitor to Steve Young because it was clear his performance was starting to fade. So he wasn't, if he had gone out and won the MVP and they'd won another Super Bowl, then you can't push him into the sunset.
Skip,
you can't trade him.
They brought Steve there, Skip, in '87.
No, it took a while.
Joe won the MVP, won a back-to-back Super Bowls, '88, '89, and was the MVP.
Update your resume, and he wasn't able in the end, and they said, we're going to trade you because we think you're finished.
And that's what it.
And he did, to his credit. He went to Kansas City and at least got them into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Got them all the way to the championship game.
Okay, that's what Brady did. That's what Coach Belichick said. Brady, update your resume.
Okay. Well, he updated it with an MVP and should have been 3 Super Bowl championships.
No, he shouldn't.
Well, you know that.
No.
They should have won that game.
No.
Well, and Garoppolo was still there all along that trail, and finally Belichick wanted to go with Garoppolo, and it took the owner slapping him on the wrist and saying, no, you will trade Jimmy G.
Okay.
Or it would have cost them more.
And how did this come about? Somebody.
LeBron as an all-around better player, quote, by far. The Gloves said LeBron does a better job passing, dribbling, and rebounding, while MJ had the advantage shooting. So Shannon, does he have a point here?
He does. I mean, I've been saying this. I think everybody knows this. And this is coming from Gary Payton, the Glove, who saw Jordan up close and personal in his prime. And Gary Payton, Skip, we don't need to talk about defense because he could play it. Now, you keep talking about Patrick Beverly playing defense, all these other guys. This was a true guy that could guard. And he could really get up in the guys. But as GP said, he's a better creator. He's a better passer. He's a better rebounder. He's a better facilitator of the offense. And, Skip, I think we throw it out a lot of times in baseball. You say, oh, he's a 5-tool guy. And I think a lot of times when we say, oh, he can guard 1 through 5, we throw that term around loosely. But this is what we know. We've seen LeBron James. The year Derrick Rose won the MVP, we saw LeBron James take him in the playoffs and shut him down. You remember the game they lost the first game, the second year go-around, to the Spurs. They lost game 1. LeBron James took Tony Parker moving forward. And then in game 7, the last 5 minutes of the ball game, supposed to say, LeBron, you got Tim Duncan. That's what he can do. That's when I say you guard 1 through 5. You go to point to the center. He could do that. We saw Jordan struggle against big guards. He couldn't do anything with Magic. Scottie Pippen took Magic. You remember game 1, his first finals. Magic had a triple-double. They won. They put Scottie Pippen on him. He hounded Magic for 94 feet. Changed the whole complexion of the series. We know that, Skip. That's not to diminish Mike. Skip, you can be good at, look, I wasn't as complete a tight end as Gronk. That doesn't diminish me. Gronk can block better than I could. That's okay. That doesn't take anything away from me to accentuate what he did. I think sometimes if that you say, well, this guy can do this better than that guy, it's like almost like you're knocking the other guy. Michael Jordan is historically great. Very few guys have been able to score the ball like he can. He's an assassin. But if you just look at it, Jordan had averaged more points, but LeBron averaged more rebounds, more assists, shot a high percentage from the field, shot a high percentage from the 3. It is what it is, Skip. So GP is right on. As an overall player, I believe he's a better player, but as an overall player, complete, Bron has no equal.
The phrase that stuck in my craw was, he is, said Gary Payton, by far.
By far.
By far.
That'd be a long way, right?
That's a long way.
Okay. I just making sure we got our terminology correct.
And I think we need to qualify or maybe disqualify Gary Payton out of the Isaiah Thomas mold of having a little bit of jealousy and a little bit of resentment for a guy who kicked your ass.
Skip,
that's
why
what
you
happened.
Do that?
I'm sorry, that's what happened. 1996 finals, 6 games. Michael prevailed. Isaiah got the best of Michael for a while, but when Michael finally grew up and went to the weight room, thanks to the great Tim Grover, his trainer, it was over. And you know what happened in the end.
And Isaiah finally got old. Michael Jordan grew up and Isaiah got old.
Okay, so I will give you this. I've said this from the start. LeBron is definitely a little better passer than Michael was, but Michael just didn't pass. When he wanted to pass, it's not that he couldn't pass, he was a gifted passer. One year, he averaged 8 assists. Is that good? That's pretty great. And it wasn't that Michael couldn't rebound, he just didn't focus on rebounding because one year he averaged 8. So LeBron for his career has averaged 7.4 to Michael's 6.2. in rebounds. Okay, it's not that great
But
difference.
Skip, but if you average that, or that's an extra rebound and a half per game,
All right.
times 80, times 18. So how many more rebounds does he have?
So how many more inches does he have? He's 6 feet 9 inches tall and weighs what? What are we going to give him now? 260, 270? Michael at his peak, 6'6", 215-ish maybe? Right in there, 210, 215. Okay, so talk about bricks in his pocket. How about bricks in his thighs? How about, I mean, LeBron is a freight train. And to me, his career 7.4 rebounds